There are 41 different consumable items in the game, and we've got 5 different categories to sort them into: supreme, filling, decent, mid, and terrible. So let's go ahead and just jump straight into it. Starting off today, we have the apple, which refills 4 hunger points and is honestly one of the most standard food items in the game. And because of that, it's going to be going right in the decent tier. Nothing too bad about it, but nothing extraordinary either. Next up is the baked potato, which is honestly overall a very good food source. And on top of that, since it's a crop, it's very easily farmable. It's quite literally a farm crop. Therefore, it is going to be going in the filling tier. It's not quite supreme, but it is a still very good food source. Next up, we've got beetroot. Honestly, even though I just talked about food sources and food crops, the beetroot by itself is not really good at all. It's the only reason that I'm not going to be putting it in the terrible tier is because it can be mass produced. Otherwise, it would be in terrible. But for now, it's in mid. Similar to the beetroot soup is also going to mid. It's basically the same thing, just a little bit more work that goes into it. But because you do put a little bit more work into it, you get a little more out, but it still doesn't bring it up from the mid tier. Next up, we've got bread. Bread replenishes 5 points of hunger for each piece that you eat. And because, just like others on this list, it is very easily farmable, it's actually going to be going in the filling tier. Overall, it's a pretty good source of food, and one of my favorites. Honestly, both baked potatoes and bread are up there for me. Next up on the list is the cake. The cake is a very interesting food item because it's a physical object, unlike the rest of the food items here. And it definitely fills more hunger than any other food item. It fills 14 hunger points. That is 2 hunger points per slice of the cake. With that being said though, the amount of time and energy that needs to go into it for it to be, worthwhile is not really there, but because it fills so much up, it's going to go in the decent tier. Next up is the carrot, which fulfills 3 hunger points. It's going to go in decent. It's basically just the same thing as beetroot, but a whole lot better. You get more carrots out per farming, and it replenishes 3 times the amount of hunger. Next up, we've got the chorus fruit, which is honestly one of the most unique food items on this list, similar to the cakes, in the sense that not only when you eat it do you replenish hunger, but it also randomly teleports you, so it's kind of got that, quirkiness to it. Also, because it's the only food source in the end, I actually am going to put it up in the decent tier, just because it has so much going for it in the sense of, very niche scenarios. Plus, it's also kind of fun to just randomly teleport around with. Next up, we've got cooked chicken, which replenishes 6 hunger. It's going to go right up there in the filling tier, one of the best foods in the game. Same thing with chicken, I'm actually going to be putting cooked cod also in the filling tier. You can see all the ones coming up next are a bunch of cooked items, so they're all going to be basically the same. Cooked mutton replenishes 600, going in filling. Same with cooked pork chops, filling. Now the one that I am actually going to deviate on is cooked rabbit here. This is actually going to be going in the decent tier. The reason I have it below the others is mainly because rabbits are just not a very easily farmable animal, and also considering they're so small, it's just kind of it's a little bit more effort all around to get a slightly less fulfilling food. Like, there's no reason, if you're going for a animal food source or cooked animal food source, that you wouldn't go for either pork chops or mutton or chicken over rabbit. That being said, the last one for our cooked category is the salmon, which is also going in the filling tier. Next up, we have cookies. Cookies are going to be going in the mid tier. They're just very niche, like not many people are out there looking for cocoa beans and crafting them, and they don't replenish too much either, only 2 hunger bars per cookie. In that same vein, we have dried kelp here, which replenishes only 1 hunger bar per. But the one thing it does have going for it is that it's so easily farmable, plus when you're eating it, you actually eat it very quickly, which is one of the only few foods in the game that does that, although I might be wrong. I just don't remember any others off the top of my head. Therefore, with all of that, it is going to be going in the mid tier, despite how little hunger it replenishes. Next up, we have our first S tier, Supreme, the Enchanted Golden Apple, because of course it's going to be in that tier. Also, I'm not sure why it's a different PNG than the rest, but we don't need to worry about that. Next up, we have the Glowberries, which replenish 2 hunger bars. It's going in the mid tier. Again, it's just a very niche kind of food. Like, you're not going to be eating this very often, and it's not super farmable unlike other food sources on this. The one thing it does have going for it is you can find it in caves, so if you're ever running food or running out of food in a scenario like that, you can use these as a backup. So it's got its uses, but it's just not super good. It'll keep you alive when you need it, but it's not something you want to sustain yourself on. Next up is the regular golden apple, and of course it's also going in the supreme tier. These two were uncontested. I mean, you guys already knew going into this video that they were going to be up there. To finish off the golden trio, we have the golden carrot, and this guy is also going to be going up here. It is very well known that the golden carrot has the best saturation of any food in Minecraft, and that's simply true. And for that reason, and because they're so easily farmable, other than the fact that you need gold, it's going in the supreme tier. Next up is the honey bottle. Now, the honey bottle is pretty interesting in that you can't farm it too widely, but it does have some things going for it. One, it does replenish 6 bars of hunger, so you're basically the same as some of these cooked foods up here. And on top of that, whenever you do drink honey, which I don't think this is very well known, but it actually clears any poison effect that you have. And so, because of that, because I think it's cool, it is going in the filling tier. Next up, we have the melon. The melon I would compare very closely to cookies. Maybe it's just because they both spawn in jungles, but the other reason is that they replenish the same amount of hunger and they're both farmable. Well, cookies not so much, but let's not focus on the details, you know. Melons though, because you can use fortune on a melon and get so much more out of it, plus you can craft golden melons with these, but that's not really what we're talking about, is going to be going in the decent tier. Good job, melon. You did very good. Next up is mushroom stew. These guys have been a cornerstone in Minecraft's food game for a while now, but I feel like they've been undershadowed a lot of the time just because of how inconvenient it is to store a lot of them. But in a pinch, these guys are your best friend as they replenish 6 bars of hunger. So we're gonna bring them right over here to the decent category. Next up, we have our first terrible one. It's the poisonous potato. I mean, there's literally no reason to eat it. Eating it gives you poison. You're better off, like, actually starving to death. It'll take you longer to starve to death than if you were to eat a poisonous potato. Although, interestingly, a poisonous potato does replenish more hunger than a regular potato, which is our next food item. And simply only because it does not give you poison and can be very widely farmable, it is going in the mid tier. Next up is our next terrible category, and it's the pufferfish. I think this might single-handedly be the worst food item in the game. Upon consuming a pufferfish, you get hunger 3, nausea, and poison 2. There's zero reason to eat a pufferfish other than just like for the meme, which I guess you could, you know, maybe bring it up to mid just because it's fun to eat a pufferfish, like it makes you feel something, but you know, other than that, there's no reason to. Next up, we have the pumpkin pie, which replenishes 8 bars of hunger, which is actually one of the highest in Minecraft other than like the cake, but because you have to go through so much work to craft it, it is only going to be going in the decent tier. Pumpkin pies are not usually something you have on hand readily available for most of your Minecraft playthrough, but if you do decide to invest in them, yeah, honestly, it's a pretty good option. Next up, we have rabbit stew. Now, this actually falls in the same line as pumpkin pie in the sense that this replenishes 10 bars of hunger, which is second to none other than the cake. But like, if we're talking about just items in Minecraft, food items, nothing else beats rabbit stew. But because you have to go through so much to make rabbit stew, it's going in the decent tier. Alright, so next up we have a ton of raw items, so I'm just going to speed through them real quickly. First is raw beef, mid. Raw chicken is actually going to be going in the terrible category, simply because you can actually get hunger from eating raw chicken, so it's not really advised to eat it. Like, you'd rather eat any of these other raw foods. Raw cod, mid. Raw mutton, also mid. Raw pork chops, also mid. And finally, raw rabbit is actually going in the terrible, just for the reasons that I have rabbit in the lower category as well, compared to the other cooked foods. Oh, and I actually forgot about raw salmon. This guy is going in the mid tier. And then next on the list, we have rotten flesh, which, once again, similar to these other foods, you already know is going in the terrible category. And just like rotten flesh, spider eyes are also going in this category as well. Wah wah. Next on this list though is steak. Steak replenishes 8 hunger points and is actually going to be up in the supreme tier. Now, why did you put steak in the supreme tier compared to all the other cooked options? Well, it's because steak, unlike all the rest of them, which only replenish 5 or 6 hunger bars, actually replenishes 8. So the bang for your buck that you get from steak compared to the other foods is actually a lot higher, therefore making it a lot more fulfilling and worthwhile to go for steak rather than any of these other options. Next up, we have suspicious stew. Now, this one is actually actually a very hard one to place just because of the amount of variables it has. When eating suspicious stew, you can get either regeneration, jump boost, poison, wither, weakness, blindness, fire resistance, saturation, or night vision. So because it's such a gamble and you can't really put it anywhere else, I'm going to put it right in the middle of the pack, because similar to pufferfish, this is just kind of a fun one to eat because you don't know what kind of potion effect you're going to get. So, you know, that makes it fun and interesting to eat. But other than the gimmick that it provides, it's actually a decent food source because it provides 6 bars of hunger for you. Next up, we have sweet berries. Sweet berries is also going in the decent tier. They replenish 2 bars of hunger, but they can be very easily farmable and are somewhat readily available if you can find yourself in a taiga biome. So generally, yes, I am a pretty big fan of them, but there's no way they would be ever higher than this tier. In fact, they're barely in the decent tier. And last but not least, we have the tropical fish, which I actually didn't even know could be eaten. I thought this was a fish that couldn't be eaten, but the tropical fish replenishes 1 bar of hunger, so the same as like a potato. And because I feel like tropical fish are much better suited for like decoration and in builds and not as a food source, it's gonna go in the mid. But it's not enough to put it in terrible since it can't give you a negative effect. It's still not a very good food source. I would not recommend it. So there you guys have it. That is my complete list for all the food items in Minecraft. Share your thoughts in the comments down below, because I know some of you will disagree with me. But while you guys are down there in the comments, make sure to like and subscribe, as well as join my Discord. I'm looking to continue to grow this channel, and if you're willing to join me on this journey, then I'm willing to have you here with me. So thank you all for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.